Coming up on today's show, we will discuss the spring transfer portal. That is opening up today, and I should say has opened up today. Runs for 10 days. We'll break down some early buzz on who Ohio State could add and who they've actually already lost to the portal. Before we get into that, let's go to the elephant in the room. This is a funny story. Ryan Day's wife clapping back at accusations from Clay Travis that Ryan Day dyes his beard, which was also an early accusation from our Michigan Report host here, James Yoder, which, funny how art imitates life sometimes. Christina Day tweeted out this: I've known Ryan my entire life, and he has never once dyed his beard. Move on to the next narrative. Obviously, different dyed. There is a joke here that you can make of like, Ryan doesn't dye his beard, but his barber does or something. I don't know. I've seen Ryan Day's actual hair. It is super dark. And as someone, I think most people's, you'll notice like their beards gray later than their hair does. So I don't really buy it, but it's humorous, I suppose. So let's have some fun here. You guys can chime in. Does Ryan Day dye his beard? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. 2 players have hit the portal for the Buckeyes, but they're walk-ons. Punter Anthony Vaneri, who came over from Buffalo this time last year, did not win the punting job, did not win the backup punting job. He was the third-string punter. And then wide receiver Reese Stocksdale, who was also a walk-on. And, hey, maybe he can go find a scholarship somewhere at a lesser program, which, that's great for him. Doesn't really matter. These guys were never going to play for you because they were a third-string punter and like the 8th-string wide receiver. But it is very clear that the Buckeyes are in the market to add defensive line help. Ryan Day has made that comment. We'll break that down here in a little bit. The biggest thing is even with a bit more life to the spring portal this year than what it was last year when it was kind of quiet outside of the Caden Proctor chaos that happened with Alabama. You got Nico Iamaleava, who we'll discuss here in a little bit. I don't know how many good defensive linemen will end up hitting the portal. And you also wonder if it's one of those, like, the name you want for Ohio State hits the portal with a no-contact tag and then immediately ends up at Ohio State. That might be how this one ends up playing out. But predictions. How many, if any, defensive linemen does Ohio State add in the spring transfer portal? It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Here's what Ryan Day had to say. He says, I think we've got to take a hard look at it, referring to the defensive line depth. I don't think I have the answer right now, but we've got to go look at it. It just seems like to me that there's a lot of knockback on the offensive side of the ball here, but then again, I don't want to make any final judgments until I watch the film. They want to get help. You want to get not knocked back as much? Go at a large human at defensive tackle. I'll talk about 2 players here in kind of the early on stages of ones I want to look at that will add more and more as the portal really gets some traction going here. That is De'Marion Thomas, who is a big body. He's listed at 6'2", 231. Now, Ohio State cares a lot about fit. I think if you're trying to replace Tyleik Williams, you want someone who offers some big size, and he is not a stat sheet stuffer. I don't think he's a fantastic athlete either, but he was a Power 5 starter. And if he's willing to come kind of take on some rotation role, that stands out to me. I think if you're looking for 2 different types, right? Disruptors on the interior or at the edge spot, and bigger bodies on the interior too. Thomas fits the latter there. And of some of the early names in the portal, this is one who at least has starting Power 5 experience. Now, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time actually makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for those hard-to-get playoff seats if you want to travel out for a Cavs game or a Pacers game. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets or NHL games, or you could even try to pursue some there's Columbus Crew games, not that far away either. If you're in, of course, the Columbus area. Get up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between with Game Time. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, Redeem code CHATSPORTS, Chat Sports, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price, all guaranteed. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Another interesting name, this is kind of more of an edge rusher, which I think is also a potential concern for Ohio State, is Liberty's TJ Bush. He had some production last year and is already being linked on social media. The Scarlet and Gray podcast pointing out that one of the people, or I should say two of the people that Bush follows on social media are Tyleik Williams, the former Buckeye defensive tackle, and Larry Johnson, who is, of course, the defensive line coach. Incident, coincidence, noteworthy, who's to say? Bush was pretty productive this past year, though, for Liberty. Obviously, it would be a sizable level of competition jump coming, but he had 10 TFLs, he had 5.5 sacks, he does a great job of getting his hands up, being able to bat down passes. I think that front four in general is where the Buckeyes probably feel some insecurities at this moment. Now, it is early. We will have a lot more Ohio State transfer portal buzz. As I sit here filming this, just saw that Bo Atkinson hopped in the portal out of North Carolina. Probably a name we'll discuss on a future video. So if you want more updates, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/GoBucks. I want to end today's show with the Nico Iamaleava conversation here. Look, Nico this is a big college football story because of the way it all went down. He is now in the transfer portal, do not contact tag, trying to get $4 million. I am shocked to see that Nico Iamaleava has been linked to Ohio State. Bill Bender, who I've known for a long time over at Sporting News, was the one who pushed it. So I'm not trying to take shots at Bill, but here's what he wrote. Sounds crazy, but don't rule out Ryan Day. Ohio State won a national championship with a first-year transfer QB and Will Howard last season. And Iamaleava showed toughness in that loss to the Buckeyes last year with 20 carries, 47 yards, and 2 scores. He was bad as a passer in that game. Anyway, who said that? The competition between Julian Sain and Lincoln Keenholz this spring does not have a definitive answer at this point. If OSU were to make this move, it would suggest that Iamaleava is a good as a one-year rental for a national championship contender. To be blunt, Bill, it does sound crazy. Because it is crazy. Doesn't make any sense for Ohio State. Why would they do that? Why? I think the Buckeyes could add a transfer quarterback in the portal. Remember the year they took Tristan Gebby, I think that's how you pronounce his name then? Like that makes sense to me. Nico, who wants a bag and guaranteed to start, neither of which he would be in line to get for Ohio State, that's your plan? Come on now. So predictions, then I got some final wrap-up thoughts, kind of more big picture portal-wise involving Nico here. Will the Buckeyes add a QB? A for yes, B for no. Unfortunately, I think the situation with Nico is indicative of the downside of the NIL era and the transfer portal. I am always in favor of these kids being able to get paid, making money. That doesn't bother me. That is a good thing. This situation is how you don't handle it. You don't not go to practice, don't tell your coaching staff out of a dispute, and now you're looking for a different destination. It's wild to me to see some of the excuse making going on, like, oh, it's not Nico's fault. Well, it kind of is. He's made decisions here. His support system, namely his dad and the family friend advisor who isn't an agent because he has no agent, they have failed him here. And this is what happens when you sometimes the family and the supporting cast, they think they have the right intention. They go about it doing it the worst possible way. They messed up, and they didn't handle it properly. And now Tulane's out of the running, and UNC's out of the running, and UCLA's, he's not getting the $4 million he was asking for. He didn't go about doing it right. It was truly an F around and find out situation for Nico. Tennessee now has no quarterback either. There's no winners here. There's just losers. And that's what's unfortunate. But specifically for Ohio State, no, they're obviously not going to go after him because, is he better than Julian Sain right now? I don't know that he is. And he clearly just wants the bag and the guaranteed starting spot. He's not getting that at Ohio State.